Well, howdy do, buckaroos. How the heck are you? This is a special snow day session of the Beer Whisperer Pub. I recently picked up this pack at a Sam's Club. It's called the Brewers Project from Guinness. They've got a Dublin Porter, a Guinness Original, and a West Indies Porter. I'm going to try to work through all three during this particular session. We pop the Dublin Porter first, and while I'm popping and pouring, joining me for this session is Red Rooster. Hey, Red.
Hello, folks.
And what are you drinking today?
Well, I also have the Guinness pack, Tom. I went and picked that up last week, and I got to say, I'm very impressed with it, and we'll get into that. So I have all three on hand as well, but I'm not sure if I'll get through all three, though I've drank all three already. What I've got cracked right now is from a local brewery for me. It's Flying Dog in Frederick, Maryland, and this is one of their brew house rarities. It is a tropical stout. This is a stout that's brewed with coconut and pineapple, and it's clocking in at 6% alcohol by volume. So, saw a single of this. If I saw a six pack, I would have gotten a six because I like pineapple, I like coconut, and I like stout. And I thought, wow, that seems like a pretty good combination. So I only found the one, so I'm going to go back and look for more sometime in the very near future. But that's what I got right now, a tropical stout. So interested in giving this one a go.
Well, the first one I poured is the Dublin Porter. I'm going to go Dublin Porter, Guinness Original, West Indies. And it pours very nice. It pours with a nice head. It does dissipate somewhat quickly, but it's very nice. They tell you on the bottle to look for notes of smooth with malt and dark chocolate notes. And I remember getting that when I've had two of the bottles of the pack already. I popped one a couple nights ago when I first bought it and did a written review on my Beer Whisperer page. And then last night I popped one just to do a video on it alone. But now I thought I'd pop all these three since we're sitting here at the pub on a snow day, because these are perfect snow day beers. And this one's only 3.8%. So it's one you really, it is a true session ale, no matter where you stand on that argument. And it's one you really could drink all day.
Oh, yes, indeed. I was very impressed with that one. I really like the fact that it's 3.8% alcohol by volume, because it might be very moderate in alcohol, but it certainly isn't on aroma and flavor. This beer has got really great roasty and chocolatey aromas. Very malty.
Yes.
It's kind of light on the body, but that's to be expected. And it has really good, dark malt, brown malt, and light roasty flavors. And it's got just a little bit of hot bitterness to kind of pull it all together. And it's a little roasty and bitter on in the finish. So it just wants you having more. So that's a really, really great session beer. And for me, and you and I talked about this in private, a session ale is something that has to be 4.0% alcohol and lower. And the reason being is that's really a British, English, cultural thing. That's something that is part of the pub culture in Britain, where, people would go in and drink pints of porter or bitter or mild, and drink it by the imperial measure and drink pint after pint after pint. So to try to translate that into the craft beer world today, it's kind of difficult, because craft beer drinkers, especially so in America, don't drink that way. Craft beer drinkers drink a variety of beer styles when they go out at varying strengths. So for the craft beer drinker to session beers, it's really all about pace, alcohol, volume,
Yeah.
and it's and how you pace yourself and how much you're going to drink and what kind of beer you're going to drink. I've always argued that you can session any beer you want. It's just the pace that really matters, because I've been to barley wine festivals and I've drank barley wine all day long. And the reason I've been able to do that and get up, stand up, and not fall on the floor is because I pace myself and I drank much smaller amounts. So you can session anything, but the notion of throwing out some other arbitrary number and saying now, okay, now this is session ale. It's, I don't know. I don't agree with it because for the simple fact that if you're going to say the numbers say 4.5 or 4.3, well, then you know what? Any beer is session ale. Bud Light is session ale. I mean, it's any lager you could go to could be a session ale. So it's kind of ridiculous. That's an English, British, cultural pub thing, and I think it just needs to stay that way. So I guess the definition of session can change, but for me, 4.0 and below, and by the pint.
You're right. The body is light, but it doesn't feel watery at all, and there is a lot of flavor and aroma going on in this thing.
Yeah, it's a great one, Tom. I really, really like that one. I was kind of going back and forth with which one I like the best. I mean, I love all three, but the West Indies porter probably edged it out because for me, when I'm drinking bottled Guinness, I like the stronger versions. But
Yeah.
yeah, that one is tough to beat. That's a great one, and the
Well,
original stout's great too.
and this has a very interesting finish. So the finish is again, it's not that American craft hoppy, but it's very earthy and dry right at the end. I mean, and there is a subtle difference between an Irish porter and an English one.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and I really
Yeah, you know what? But back to your session points, I actually agree with just about everything you said. If you're going to go completely on heritage, you're exactly right. And but and when I drink, I rarely drink the same beer twice, in all honesty. But if I was going to a card game or a picnic, of course, I'm not going to a picnic today, but in colder weather, if I was going to a card game or something, this would be a great one to bring just a six pack of because you got flavorful beer. I mean, you got something with a lot of flavor, a lot of aroma, but you're still you're not going to go all in on the third hand.
right, right, and that's the thing too. That even over in Britain and all around the world, I mean, the beer culture is changing, and American influence is being shown. I mean, you go to Britain now, and you'll see lots of craft beer, and you'll see the guy going to the pub isn't necessarily going to go get, cask condition ale. He's not going to necessarily go for that real ale with a 20-ounce glass and just stick to that all night long. He's going to try beers under pressure. He's going to try bottle beers. He's going to drink half pints versus full pints.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to look at the pub culture and atmosphere in Britain and Ireland. I mean, when people would go into the pub, you would order a pint of bitter and you would plow through 7, 8, 9, 10 pints of bitter. I mean, at
yeah.
an imperial measure at 20 ounces a pop. But people don't drink that way anymore. And, they really change it up. They really want to mix it up. I mean, I know when I went to London, um, I went to a couple specialty beer bars and tried some specialty beers. But for the most part, for me, I wanted that traditional experience. I wanted to drink cask conditioned ale. So I kind of forced myself only to drink cask conditioned ale, pulled from a beer engine and by the imperial measure. And it was pint after pint for me. So I don't think I went to one place where I didn't at least drink 3 pints of ale. So,
Well, a lot of American breweries, tap rooms, brew pubs, and craft beer bars are doing the same thing. A lot of them you can get flights, but a lot of them have started selling just half pints where you could just sample a whole bunch of different beers. And more than a typical, usually a flight's about a 3 to 4 ounce pour, but a lot of them are going to a standard half pint glass where you can have half pint of everything they have on tap.
right. So, again, my point is I don't think the whole sessioning thing works here because American craft beer drinkers just don't drink that way. They're not going to stick to
No,
beer. They're going to
typically
drink.
not. I mean, like I said, the exceptions are, for me anyway, I'm a card game, a picnic, a holiday party, anything you're bringing a solid six pack of. When I talk about American session, that's kind of what I'm referring to. But yeah, I mean, I understand the tradition. I don't necessarily think that we have to adhere to but I certainly understand the tradition and it makes sense.
Yeah, well, I certainly don't. Like I said, when I go out to drink, I'll get a flight if I'm going to a brew pub. If I go to a beer bar, pretty much the same thing. I'm going to get smaller measures because I want to try a variety of different beers, a lot of variety of different beer styles and different strengths. I mean, I don't want to just drink ales. I want to drink lagers. I mean, I'll drink, a double bock, and then I'll drink an India Pale Ale, and then I'll drink a mild, and then I'll drink, a Scotch.
Yeah.
It all depends what
You
I'm in the
know,
mood for. Yeah.
I agree. I was doing that the other day when I was out at a craft beer bar. I mean, I'd have something big, then I'd have like that they're lighter pilsner or something as a palate cleanser. Then I go back big again. And while I interrupted you there, I didn't mean to, but I just popped the Guinness Original, a 4.2% stout, inspired by Arthur Guinness Original Stout recipe. So what I like about this pack, Red, I'm guessing you do too, is that it's I guess it's about tradition as well as doing something new.
Right. And they're going back to the old recipes. That particular one, I think, Tom, if you look on the back of the bottle, it's from what, the 1760s, or when's
Yeah.
that one from?
Look how beautiful that pours, though, man. That just pours just sweet. It says, let's see, Arthur Guinness Original Stout recipe. First introduced in Dublin around the 1800s. It says, doesn't give a
Oh,
specific.
okay. Maybe I'm thinking of the Dublin Porter recipe that they have the actual date on the back of the bottle. But I know with the West Indies
Oh
Porter, they've
gosh.
got 1801 on the bottle, and that's when they started doing the West Indies Porter. And I've got the Foreign Extra Stout now. I've compared the two, and they are remarkably similar. I mean, it's amazing how close the West Indies Porter, with a recipe based from 1801, taste compared to the modern version of Foreign Extra Stout, which is, a little higher in alcohol at 7.5. But they really taste a lot alike, and I think that's fantastic. I hope they keep this Brewers collection pack around
I do too.
because,
I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, Guinness tends to get knocked around by craft beer guys, but these beers are solid. And I think a lot of the problem is I think everybody wants the chocolate, peanut butter, banana, coconut, raspberry. I mean, everything has to be crazy or out of the box. I don't think people understand how to drink a traditional style. This thing does everything right. This stout has those beautiful roasted barley notes on the nose. You get bits of chocolate. I mean, there's hints of toffee. It's just a beautiful beer all around.
well, that's the thing. I mean, people are looking for trends. They're looking for more. It's trendy that right now it's hot to have all these, ingredients that normally wouldn't be in a certain beer style in it. I think we talked about this the last time. I said that's not necessarily a bad thing because adjuncts have been used traditionally in beer culture for thousands of years. So, things that people might think are wacky and crazy right now in a beer style, when you look at the big picture, this has really been going on forever. So it really
Yeah.
isn't. But the beer I'm drinking right now, I mean, this tropical stout, it's got coconut and it's got pineapple in it, and you'd think, oh well, would that work? And I got to tell you, it works because the nose, I'm getting like lots of pineapple on the nose, which is really good. I like it. It's given that like inviting. It's going to be refreshing. The palate is chocolatey, a little coffee-ish, and then that coconut comes in on the end of the palate, and I'm starting to taste coconut, and then all of a sudden that pineapple comes back in the finish, and it's that refreshing, like you're biting into a fresh piece of pineapple, like a big chunk of fresh pineapple. So the coconut and the pineapple and the stout character all ties in together wonderfully, and this is a delicious beer. And what I like about it is that pineapple is given that little acidic edge to it, that really that fruity tropical notes that you get with coconut and pineapple, and it's great. And this would match great with any kind of food that you would try to match with that kind of stuff. So I love this beer. I got to look for more of this.
Yeah, and as far as this one's concerned, I mean, it's only 4.2%, and the body is light, but much like the porter, it doesn't feel watery at all. It just feels like a traditional, Irish or dry stout, and it does everything right. And I think folks that are going to call this, an average beer, don't understand what the style is supposed to taste like.
No, they don't understand what they're drinking if they think that's average, because there is nothing average about that beer. That's a
Yeah.
very, very well crafted beer.
Yeah,
And
the finish is what's gorgeous on it. It's got that perfectly dry Irish stout finish that you want. It doesn't linger. It just It just finishes real clean and crisp and shuts you down right at the end. It's just beautiful.
If you're a stout drinker and you're a fan of stouts, you're going to be very happy with this pack. Very happy, and I'm going out to get more of that as well. Hopefully, this will be something they continue with because I think it will continue to sell. If not, I'll have to snap up a couple more packs of it because I'd really like to see this stick around, but you never know. So
Well, I was talking with one of my beer guys, I don't know, a couple, 3 months ago. I guess it was right about the time that the Guinness Nitro came out. We both kind of scratching our heads going, well, they came up with the Guinness Blonde. It's not a terrible beer, but, it's just kind of there. The Nitro IPA, yeah, it's okay, but it's not really a American craft IPA. It's not really traditional English IPA. And we were both talking, and I said, you know what? If they're going to do something different, if they want to appeal to craft drinkers, they need to stick to their home run swing, which is porters and stouts. So I'm kind of hoping that's what they're doing with this.
yeah, I mean they've definitely branched out into different styles, and I was skeptical when they came out with the black lager, but that beer surprised me how good that one was, and I really, really love that beer. I mean, that uses the unroasted, barley,
Mhm.
the unroasted, unmalted barley, and
Yeah,
you really get that signature Guinness bite. But it's a lager, and the body is smooth, and it reminds me. Well, it's a little different than a Schwarzbier, but
yeah.
it's a fantastic black lager, and I'm blown away about how good that beer is too. So, you know, I've gone on record. People know I'm a Guinness fan. I'm a huge Guinness fan. So I'm never gonna, bash Guinness too much because I just love the brewery so much and I love their products and I love stout. Irish stout for me is if you had to, pin me down, what's your favorite beer style? It'd be hard, but a perfect pint of Guinness poured would probably be my death row beer.
Well, I think for many of us beer drinkers of a certain age, the first stout we ever had was a Guinness Extra Stout.
True, true. Yeah, it was mine. It was in the early '80s, and it was the bottled version. And
Yeah, that's what I had. Yeah,
it,
I've told this story before. We bought a 6 pack, gave one beer to everybody, and I was the only one out of the 6 folks that liked it. So I knew right away that I wasn't going to be that light beer drinker.
yeah, well, me neither. And I drink Guinness year round. It's a beer that I could drink all day, every day. I never get tired of it. So, some people like it in the colder weather. It's perfect for this time of weather, but it's good in the hot
Yeah.
weather for me. I mean, any time is a good time for a good Guinness. So,
Well, even though this is lighter in body and it is only 4.2%, it's still with this cold weather. It is a stout that does feel comforting, which is what a stout is supposed to do.
and it's a very food friendly beer as well. I mean, you can match
Yeah,
a
yeah,
number
you're
of
right.
dishes. It's a good ingredient to cook with too. I
It
mean,
is. Yeah, especially this one here. I mean, because the body's light, it'd be perfect in some stew. I was thinking stew as I was drinking it.
oh yeah, a beef stew, Irish stew, lamb stew. I mean, it'd be great
Yeah.
in anything savory and even sweet stuff. I mean, if you're gonna make
Oh
cakes,
yeah, make a nice reduction. You're right.
yeah, brownies and what else?
Yeah,
Anything that you want to match with a sweet thing, even with a dessert. The
that would be good on
contrast.
a coffee cake, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, well, the
use, a,
thing too
use a
is
Guinness reduction on a coffee cake. I'm in for that.
the Guinness would go great with any kind of dessert because it's really like having a cup of black coffee. So anything that black coffee would match work well
Hmm.
with, like say a piece of cheesecake, a glass of Guinness stout would work with it great too.
Yeah, I
Probably the
agree.
stronger ones. I would pair the foreign extra stout from the bottle with something like cheesecake or something like that. But it'd be a
Excuse
fantastic
me.
combination.
So I paid 21. I think it was 21.46 for the 8 pack, but it's going for a little bit more in your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, it's the I found it at Total Wine and More, and the 18 pack was going for 25.99. So I rounded up and said it was 26. So it
So
was
that's
20.
still fairly reasonable. But I thought, at $22, hell, I mean, even with tax, it was under $8 a 6 pack for me. I mean, hell, I'd buy these at $8 a six pack all day long.
Oh yeah, no problem. I agree. And like I said, it's for the West Indies porter alone, the 6 pack, it's worth it. Just to
Speaking
get
of the
that
West
West Indies
Indies,
porter.
I'm getting ready to pop it right now. I'll let you talk while I pop and pour this thing.
Well, it's a beautiful beer, and like I was saying a little earlier, it's remarkably similar to the foreign extra stout. And what I love about the foreign extra stout, and what I love about this beer is it has that refreshing edge of sourness. They include some soured beer in this beer, so it's a blend. It's got they brew up the stout and they put some sour beer in there as well, and that sourness gives it that refreshing edge that it's understandable why in the Caribbean, why in the West Indies, why in African countries you would think Guinness would be too heavy and people couldn't drink it. But when you taste that little sourness, it makes it refreshing. And yet, yeah, you can understand why in very warm weather how stout can work.
That pour, look how nicely that pours. That's just a nice looking beer. It had kind of a ruby hue to it, don't you think?
Uh huh.
Did you notice that when you poured yours too?
I did, and if you look at the Dublin Porter is actually brown. It's a
Yeah,
very dark brown color. It's not black like most Guinness. I mean, I don't think they're even using any black patent, or they might not even be using any of the unmalted roasted barley in the Dublin Porter,
the
because
aroma on that West Indies is just beyond gorgeous, though.
oh, it's a beautiful beer, and just like the foreign extra stout, it's wonderful. Again, the only one that is bottled that I've ever had that I liked better was the special export stout. And I was in Brussels in 2011 in Belgium, and I drank it at a classic beer bar in Brussels. It was called Mort Subit, and it was just awesome. And then they had the packs of it to take home, and I took home as much of it as I could. The special export stout was commissioned by John Martin, who was a importer exporter, and it was commissioned in 1912 just for the Belgian market. And it since has been brought out to other markets because I know it was available in England. It's in England now. You can get it in Britain too. But at one point, the special export stout, you could only get that in Belgium.
Yeah, I've never had that, so I'm going to have to acquiesce to your expertise. But I got to tell you that this pack has been phenomenal, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. So we're definitely Guinness fans, Tom. But maybe it's because we're Irish too. I mean,
I think so. Yeah. Well, I think I think that a lot of the trouble with younger beer drinkers, they don't have nostalgia attached to it. I mean, you and I can probably remember our first Guinness, and then maybe our second and third, and on through the years that we tried other beers because we had that stout in the first place. And I think with a lot of younger beer drinkers, they don't have that nostalgia.
right, and it goes back again. It was saying with session and pub culture when you went to an Irish pub or you went to a British pub. I mean, you had a particular brand or a particular beer style that you liked, and that's what you usually stuck with. Now, I've been to Irish pubs all over the world. I mean, of course, and from one end of Ireland to the other, from Belfast to Dublin to Galway. I mean, I've been all over that country and I've had pints everywhere. But the way I would always go into an Irish pub, and if I'm going to drink Guinness, well, guess what? I'm drinking Guinness all night long. And that's I didn't switch up. If I was going to switch up, I would probably drink a black and tan, which was Guinness and Bass. I don't really see Guinness and Bass together too much anymore. Like I said, Smittix now people would make they call it a blacksmith. It's Guinness and Smittix. So but yeah, for me,
Yep.
Guinness was just, hey, if I'm gonna go to an Irish joint, I'm gonna be drinking Guinness and drinking Guinness all night long. And I've literally drank it all night long. I remember when I was in Manhattan once at a bar that I used to go to quite often. I went in there at noon, and I didn't get out of there till 4 in the morning. And I had a bunch of guys with me, and I didn't keep count, but they said I probably drank over the course of that time about 35 pints of Guinness.
Wow. Wow, that's some serious drinking.
Yeah, I mean it was stretched over a marathon session, but yeah, I was ossified. Let's put it that way, and it took me a couple days to recover from that bender. But if you were in your 20s and you're in New York City and you're in Manhattan, It's a fun town, trust me.
Well, you drink different. I mean, I just turned 50 last year, so but you drink different as you got to get older than you did in your 20s. Usually in your 20s, it was all about getting drunk. As you get older, it's a, you don't necessarily mind getting drunk, but you want to enjoy the trip getting there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just the whole, bar culture atmosphere. You're going out there with your buddies, you drink and you smoke and you're chasing women, you're just having a good time. So get a little older, you just kind of want a little more mellow, a little more kickback. But nothing replaces the experience of actually, going to a good bar and hanging out with some good people and just, having real good interaction. I think it's like funny how we're talking about the virtual pub and everything, and it is cool. But I said when you break it down, it's like, all right, you're sitting in your house and I'm sitting alone in my cellar.
Yeah, but you kind of capture some of the experience.
You
We're here
do.
talking to each other. So that's kind of, yeah. You can't quite get there actually as if we were in a pub, but at least we're having a beer and we're having a similar conversation. If we were sitting next to each other at a pub, we'd be talking about the same stuff.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's why your formula here is working, and it's being copied by other people. So you must
Yeah,
be
I've noticed that.
you must
I
you
don't
must
know.
be doing something right.
I guess what do they say? Imitations, sincerest form of flattery. I don't know. I don't. I guess I should be flattered. If
Well,
they want to steal my ideas, they can steal my ideas. I guess
you
I
said that
didn't.
the
I didn't
last.
patent it, so
No, it's not patent. You said that the last time too, Tom. But then you finished by saying, "Well, I think some people don't have one original idea in their head." That's true.
yeah. See, sometimes I can't help but get snarky. But yeah,
But no, this beer is good. Wow, I love the pineapple coconut dark chocolate coffee mix of this one. Wow, it's great. I got to look for more of this. Like I said before, this is tropical stout from Frederick, not Frederick Brewing Company. It used to be called Frederick Flying Dog in Frederick, Maryland. I've been to the brewery.
fine
Haven't
dog.
been there in a while. I actually, when it was Frederick Brewing Company, I took a tour of it, and then when they became Flying Dog, I took a tour of it. But it's probably been about at least 5 or 6 years since I've taken a tour of that particular brewery. That one you have to make a reservation and get like these online ticket type of deals. You can't just walk in there
Oh
unless,
wow.
yeah, it's a very popular thing. Some brewery tours have become extremely popular, and you really got to go and plan ahead. You can't just show up because you won't get in. I mean, I know for Anchor is that way. You got to call them and make an appointment and tell them, hey, this is when I'm coming, and they pencil you in. That's probably one of the
Oh
best
wow.
brewery tours I've ever been on. Was in San Francisco when I went to Anchor Steam, and I went on the tour there, and they had just released. It's a beer they don't even make anymore. Remember when they came out the Bach beer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anchor Bach, and I was drinking that at the bar in the tasting room afterwards, and it was great because one of the brewers, I guess was getting off his shift, and he was just like sitting at the bar and having a couple, and they had the barley wine on too, Old Foghorn, and
Yeah. That's a great
yeah,
beer.
he kept pouring me Old Foghorn because he was pouring himself some. He's like, "You want some more?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So I remember I don't know how many, but they poured me at least three glasses of the Old Foghorn, and I was like pretty toast. I said, "I got to get going," because I said I was feeling it. So I'm coming down the steps of the brewery, and guess who I run into?
Who's that?
Fritz Maytag.
Oh yeah. Wow.
He was coming up the steps. I was coming down the steps. It was funny. And I said, "Hey, Fritz, how are you?" And he's like, "Hi." And just
So
kept going.
you'd have to call Fritz Maytag one of the early founders of craft beer, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course, without a doubt. I mean, Anchor was doing it before anybody, really. And then, of course, one of the other very, very influential and one of the key founders was Jack McAuliffe with New Albion.
Hmm.
He's the guy that really started with the brick and mortar. Let me just build a brewery when no one else was even the concept of building your own brewery was just unheard of, and he decided to do it. In that time frame anyway. So yeah, it's changed a lot since those days.
Well,
So
yeah, and that's at a time where the big companies were crushing these little guys as fast as they could get started for a while there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you really didn't have what we got today. I mean, now we've got what? We've got the most breweries ever, I think, in the history of our country. I think in
Yeah, even before Prohibition now.
well, one point at Prohibition, there was over 4,000. I want to say the 1870s. Somewhere I read an article, but we've eclipsed that number. But sometime like 1878 or whatever the year was, I don't recall because I don't have the information in front of me on hand. But it was it's eclipsed that number. There are more breweries now in the United States than there ever have been in our entire history, and that's great. But like we talked about in the past too, Tom, that there will be a shakeout. A lot of these breweries aren't gonna make it. Like in the '90s, when there was a glut of them. I mean, I remember in the mid
Yeah.
'90s, it was like every day a new brewery was opening. That can't, that's not going to be able to be sustained. That can't sustain itself. There's ones that are going to be fall by the wayside. Some of the crappy ones will definitely go, but unfortunately, in the shakeout and like the shakeout in the '90s, there are going to be some very good breweries that are going to go under as well. So
Well,
that's just, hey, it's the nature of business.
back in the mid '90s, the brew pub I think was more trendy or popular than the actual brewery. You saw brew pubs popping up everywhere, and I know Springfield had one at that time. We have Springfield Brewing Company now, but there was another one that popped up. But they didn't anticipate the overhead. They were doing great beer. They were busy every night, but they still couldn't make the overhead. I think that's what happened to a lot of the breweries and brew pubs in the '90s, is they didn't anticipate the overhead.
Yeah, I mean, brew pubs are a much more costly venture when you think about it. I mean, you're talking about the restaurant end of it. Most of them are going to have a liquor license, so you got to get liquor as well. And the
Yeah.
whole aspect of the restaurant and the beer together. That's why a lot of these smaller ones now, and they're not going with a brew pub. And this is a very successful formula. They go with a tap room, and food trucks come in, and they have,
Yes.
two separate businesses kind of feeding off each other, it's a great relationship because the food truck makes a ton of money, and the tap room makes money, and of course. This can be a point of contention with some people, but these tap rooms, and this is the same with winery tasting rooms. They're not bars. They're not made just for adults to come into and drink. A lot of them have a very family friendly environment, and you're going to see children running around in these places. And I know a lot of people don't like that. I'm not a particular fan of that myself, and but you got to look at it from the business person's perspective. I mean, are you going to turn around, turn away all those potential sales and all those potential dollars because you're going to tell some guy you can't come fill up your growler because you got your 8-year-old daughter with you?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, that's crazy. So, you've got, if I was a tap room owner, and I would welcome families, but I would set an hour where, like, a time where, like, okay, it's after 6 p.m. or it's 7 p.m. If I kept my place open till like 10, I'd be like, after 6, no more children. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can work on that, but no, there's no way these tap rooms are going to turn away all that business, and they
No, I've got
shouldn't.
there's several like that. Piney River, you've heard me talk about. I mean, it's out in the middle of no place. It's basically a destination brewery. So that they encourage you to bring your families. They encourage you to bring a picnic. I mean, they have a grill that they let you use. There's picnic tables outside. So yeah, it's set as a family atmosphere where you can walk to the bar and have a beer, but you could also be out there with your kids throwing a football around.
Yeah, but that's how the Germans drink. That's how, the French drink. That's how the Italians drink. I mean, this is nothing new. The concept of the beer garden has been going around for
Yep,
centuries. I mean,
you're right.
when you have cultures where alcohol is served to children and low strength versions when they're kids, it's not a big deal. So I don't mind having children there as long as the parents watch them and they don't get out of control, and that's part of the problem. Some
Well,
of
I
these
was at
people.
a place the other day, Ozarks Beer Company in Rogers, Arkansas, and it's an interesting setup because you walk in and it's kind of like it's in a prefab warehouse. You walk in and there's kind of a hallway to the taps. You order at a counter, and then you walk into another room to sit and drink. But again, it's like a big warehouse where they've just kind of thrown tables everywhere. But they happen to be having a baby shower that day, which I thought was interesting. A baby shower at a brewery tap room. But there were several kids just kind of running around with no supervision whatsoever. So you're walking with your beer, you're having to stop them. Make sure you don't trip the kid, or the kid doesn't trip you. It was interesting.
Oh, baby shower. I went to this one in New Jersey in Cherry Hill. It used to be Flying Fish's facility, but it's called Forgotten Boardwalk. A very good brewery, by the way. Uh, Not only were they having a baby shower, they were having kids' birthday parties in the brewery.
You know what? But yeah, I've heard they've done that at Piney River as well. They've had several birthdays, even younger folks' birthdays out there, because even though they don't serve food, they do have food trucks out there from time to time, and and you can buy. I guess they have a root beer out there. So
Yeah, I mean, you can rent the space and you can have parties, and it wasn't even just one party. It was like two or three of them going on because the space is huge in the brewery, and I guess they weren't, on the weekends, I guess they don't brew. So they had this, big empty space, and I guess they said to themselves, why not rent it out? I mean, we've got the space. People are going to be here in the tap room drinking. We got staff here, and these kids were having a big birthday party. They had, the tables and the chairs set up, and they were had balloons and the cake and ice cream, and I think they were playing musical chairs, and it looked like a good place to have a fun birthday party. I know Eric, beer biker, would hate that, but hey, you know,
he was. I'm not sure what he thought about Piney. I think he liked the beer. The atmosphere is a little bit different. I think that was a little different for him, but I think he had a good time out there.
oh yeah, he told me he really enjoyed it and he really liked the beers. But that's the part of the beer hunt is finding these off the wall places and finding
Yeah.
places that you're not really ever going to probably get back to. So part of the thrill of it for me is to go to new places and try new beers and new experiences. And yeah, not every place you go to is going to be something you might like. So it's like, hey, you find the ones you like, but you're never going to know unless you go there and try. So
Yep. I agree. And as I get down to the end of my West Indies porter, I want to give you just a couple notes on it, because I was just talking and not talking about the beer, but this thing really does have a lot of flavor, man. There's a lot going on in this beer.
yeah, you like that sourness in there, you
I
definitely get
do.
it.
It's right at the end, and but all through the middle, there's almost this nutty toffee, like almost like a hazelnut toffee thing going on in there, along with some light chocolate notes, and but yeah, that you got that sour right at the very end.
Yeah, I just cracked the Guinness Original. Wow, this is good too.
So actually, I just polished off my last beer here. So, is there anything else you want to talk about in this session, Red?
Now I think we can wrap it up, Tom. I think we've covered pretty much it. Hit a couple points on some things.
So, what else would you want to say about this Guinness pack?
It's awesome. I would tell anybody if they can get their hands on it. If you like stout and you like the history of Guinness and that type of deal, it is well worth whatever you pay for it. I don't think 25 in my market was too bad. 25, 26, even better if you can get it like for 21 like you did. So it's
No, I mean they're just all solid beers. I mean they're all. I mean I don't know. I mean you could pick a favorite if you want, but I think they're all perfect in their own way. The Dublin Porter's nice. The Guinness Original has those just big roasted barley notes that are just amazing. That West Indies Porter just has so much flavor. I just think all are fantastic in their own way. I hate to pick one.
yeah, me too. And it was, Chuck Triplett had asked me what's your favorite, and I'm like, hard to say really. I said I would have to say the West Indies because when I'm gonna drink bottled Guinness, I like the stronger versions, but that's the only reason. All three are just really, really well done. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but yeah, this is a great pack. Anybody who's listening, watching, make an effort to go get this. You'll be happy that you did.
I agree. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for this special snow day session. And who knows, we may show up again for a happy hour session later. This time to Beer Whisper. And thank you all for coming. We're going to end the session.